Telecom announced diverse plans for Media New Guinea Limited. PNG Power outlines plans to address chronic power outages. And International Women's Day celebrated here and abroad.
This is National MTV News with Hope Imaka.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. This is Tuesday's news. Following the acquisition of Media New Guinea Limited in January this year, parent company Telecom PNG today announced development plans for the TV station. Telecom Chairman Mahesh Patel said among improvements is the use of telecom infrastructure to enable the shift from analog to digital technology and to take MTV wherever there is a telecom tower in the country.
A month after taking ownership of Media New Guinea Limited from Fijian Holdings Limited, the Telecom Group has been focused on formulating strategic plans for a network of synergies. Chairman of Telecom Mahesh Patel elaborated on the company's plans to position MNL to expand coverage across Papua New Guinea, as well as to transition from analog to digital technology platforms.
I think it was a good strategic decision for us. As you know, we're in the business of fixed and mobile broadband, the whole communication industry. And what people want is to have one service provider, so that way out in the villages, people don't have to have different set-top boxes, different antennas, different dishes. So through one broadband, either mobile or fixed, we'll be able to provide the FM 100 services, the MTV services, internet services, and data services. So it becomes a one play, what we call triple play.
The SOE's purchase of MNL will allow synergies between the two companies to work towards augmenting service offerings, giving MTV viewers and telecom customers new and diverse experiences. These include telecom towers being used to expand MTV coverage to parts of PNG that could not be viable in the past.
We got visions of enhancing our people with the acquisition of Daytech earlier on last year. We've got a Daytech Learning Center. We've got our telecom training school, which is somewhat defunct at the moment over the years. Our plan in the long term is to revive that, set up a training school for journalists, for TV production. Let's not rely on overseas people. We will obviously bring teachers and mentors up here, but the dream is to create our own production houses, get people to start doing their own production, get TV serials going.
According to Mr. Patel, Telecom and MNL now have a workforce with skill sets and capabilities that will allow both companies to share and source these resources without the need to outsource. I'm Leanne Gerari reporting for National MTV News.
Since the purchase of Media New Guinea Limited by the state-owned enterprise, concerns have been raised about the possibility of the censorship by the government. The Telecom chairman, Mahesh Patel, had this to say in response.
There'll be absolutely no bias, and ultimately it boils down to the journalists. We're not going to sit here and pull strings and tell journalists to do this, do that. I mean, they're independent. On the same token, we would not expect anybody to tell us to say do this, do this, do this. So the journalism independence has to stay there. I'm sure there's code of ethics internationally, so we'll follow that. I mean, whilst it's an SOE, if you look at ABC, they're sort of government-owned and all that, and they keep criticizing the government all the time. So I think it really boils down to the journalism, and we're not going to interfere at all. I mean, I don't know anything about journalism, and I don't want to pretend to know anything about it and influence them. So I presume that will carry right across.
A report was presented today by Japanese consultant company Newjack to outline the development master plan of PNG Power. Part of PNG Power's 15-year development plan, the report highlighted the chronic problems faced by the SOE's operations at the Ramu Power System and the Leh distribution network. The report will provide a framework for PNG Power to improve its services beyond 2016.
The project formulation of the Ramu System Power Development and the Leh Area Distribution Network Improvement Plan were presented today in Port Moresby. witnessed by key stakeholders, including the newly appointed JICA Chief Representative Takashi Toyama. Mr. Toyama described the master plan as a guide to effectively upgrade existing facilities in the Ramu system.
As a result, I am confident that the system will be able to provide much more stable and reliable power supply in Lae than that of today.
For the last 30 years, PNG Power has done little to upgrade some of its facilities around the country. PPL's acting Chief Operations Officer, Martin Bibiglan, told MTV News that it's about time the state-owned entity expand and improve its services.
The power infrastructure we have in Lae and the Ramu system, it's been there for the last 30 years. And it's about time we need to upgrade it. PNG Power is basically getting JICA to fund the studies so that we can attend to the immediate problems we're having in Ramu. Generation shortfall and the transmission problems which are causing the blackouts.
The report covers an extensive preview of what PNG Power can achieve in the next 15 years. It also indicates other energy sources that can be used in the future. Geothermal and bioenergy fuel were some of the sources mentioned. However, no government policies are in place to see it fully developed.
It's a very comprehensive, detailed report, and I'm pretty sure that those people will be reading the report will be amazed about how detailed this report is.
The country's growing population, on the other end, has also signaled PNG Power to start major expansions of its services around the country. Lae City's power distribution network is set to be upgraded soon.
Once that plan is done, we can then have a plan going forward, and we can improve on the demand and the supply, and eventually have a reliable system that's providing power supply to everybody.
Stanley Ovett Jr., National MTV News.
The month of March this year has been an empowering month for women throughout the world. Commemorating the International Women's Day, Business Professional Women's Club PNG in Port Moresby organized a breakfast event at the Gateway Hotel to raise funds in order to educate young female leaders of PNG.
Celebrated by the UN since 1975, this year's International Women's Day is celebrated under the theme Pledging for Parity.
In commemoration of International Women's Day, the Business and Professional Women's Club of PNG organized a breakfast event at the Gateway Hotel in Port Moresby, the nation's capital, to raise funds to educate the younger female population of PNG.
So we've been organizing this event since 2009. So this is our 8th year, and the funds that are raised from the breakfast go towards funding our scholarships program.
Worldwide, women continue to celebrate gender equality by contributing to social, economic, cultural and political achievement.
BPW is an organization of many cultures, many religions, customs and languages. Yet for all our diversity, we join together on this International Women's Day all over the world with a shared vision and commitment, all striving for the same goal: advancing gender and women participation in our economies.
Representing the Women Doctors Association of PNG, Dr. Linda Sirigoy takes an active interest in issues affecting women, particularly health issues such as cervical cancer.
One of the biggest problems with cervical cancer and the services is having a service, as you say, that can be made available to women in the rural areas. And largely that's because of the type of screening method that we use.
Globally, with individuals pledging to move from talk to purposeful action, and with men and women joining forces, collective help can be given to educate women in order to educate the nation. Julie Badui Owa, National MTV News.
National MTV News continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. Peace and normalcy has been restored in Kimber Town following tensions after the killing of a security guard last week Friday. Police Commissioner Gary Baki and West New Britain Governor Sasindran Muthuvel with the help of police, conducted peace talks between the Talisia and Section 21 communities yesterday. Meanwhile, the Bakovi people of Talisia handed a petition to the provincial government to remove squatter settlements in Kimbe. Governor Mutvel says no one will be denied their rights, but appropriate and legal means will be followed to address the petition. Kimbe police have arrested and charged 7 suspects who are primary school students. Lae Metropolitan Commander Anthony Wagambi says police have completed the court files of the driver, Benny Anya, who killed 4 young women and injured another in October last year. Wagambi was referring to a report made in one of the dailies today that the arresting police officer failed to provide the hand-up brief to the police prosecutor to appear before the court. Martha Louise reports.
Commander Wagambi said police have completed the court files and a brief was forwarded to the prosecution and taken to court. Since the matter was serious, it was taken to the public prosecutor's office to hold the process of election to be tried in the Grade 5 court or to carry out an indictment for manslaughter in the National Court.
The court file has been completed. There's no incomplete file. Prosecutions have done their part. It was with the public prosecutor. The district court could have allowed for adjournment to await for the public prosecutor to come back with their decision. It never happened and it was struck out there and then. That's where we are today.
Officer in charge of prosecution, Inspector Ove Glenderiso, said the court files have been completed and was handed over to the public solicitor's office. However, the matter appeared also in the district court and was struck out by the Lae District Court before Magistrate Tera Dawai on technical grounds.
So it stands down. The matter has been struck out and the accused has been released. But that is not the end of the matter. He can be rearrested and charged.
On October last year, Benny Hania was found drunk and was driving a Toyota Land Cruiser. He lost control of the vehicle along Cassia Crescent Street and the vehicle plowed head-on into the 4 young women walking along the road. Lae Metropolitan Commander Anthony Wagambi said the files have been completed and are still at the public solicitor's office. They now want the suspect Benny Hania to come forward to the Lae police station for more investigation. The suspect had left Lae and his last known location is at Mount Hagen.
I'm appealing to him to come forward voluntarily. If he doesn't, his photo will go up and then I will get the public to look for him.
Martha Louise, National MTV News, Lae.
NCD Police Commander Sylvester Kalaut said police will serve files on the 2 suspects involved in the Kokoda attack of the 2 tourists in January. He confirmed that police have received medical reports from the Paradise Hospital and statements from victims Matthew Ivone and Michelle Clements. The 2 suspects have been refused bail and are currently in police custody. Ivone and Clements were allegedly raped and robbed by their potters while tracking the Kokoda early this year. At least 6 criminal matters at the Waigani Committal Court listed for today were adjourned by Senior Magistrate Cosmas Bida. The adjournments were based on the grounds that lawyers needed 2 more weeks to prepare for submissions. Former Lands and Physical Planning Secretary Ramili Kilapat's case was amongst the adjournments.
The committal court was packed to capacity this morning, with lawyers and their clients lining up outside courtroom 9. From the 17 cases that were listed for committal proceedings today, 6 were misappropriation charges, another 6 charged for sexual assaults, and the remaining 5 for grievous bodily harm. Former Lands and Physical Planning Secretary Romili Kilapat and the 2 former lands officers, Vavine Walo and Simon Andrew, had their cases adjourned to 22nd March after their lawyer filed a new motion. Magistrate Bidaroden gave the police prosecution 2 weeks to respond to the motion. The 3 were accused to have conspired and applied to use over 80,000 kina from the Lands Reform Trust account. They were each charged for 2 counts of misappropriation and conspiracy to defraud the state. All 3 are out on bail. In other matters, a man charged for willful wounding of another man was told this case would not proceed to the National Court but remain at District Court. Magistrate Bidar told Teka Teka the public prosecutors had received a copy of his files and have decided the case will proceed at the committal courts. His 500 kina bail was extended and the matter returns to court on March 22nd. Thakla Gunga, National, MTV News.
The shortage of police manpower in the Menyama district of Morebet province has resulted in an increase in serious crime, especially murder and rape. Based on the police structure, there should be 5 personnel stationed at the district. However, there are only 2 officers on the ground. Chief Inspector for Rural Command, David Warrap, said due to the limited manpower, police are using members of the public as reserve police officers.
Chief Inspector for Rural Command David Warrap said police in Menyama district is outnumbered. Therefore, police in the district are engaging members of the community as reserve police to deal with law and order issues. Warrap said the situation came to their attention when 12 men were locked up in the police station cell. These men were alleged to have assaulted a village councillor in the district. They were forced to pay a total of 8,500 kina as compensation before they were released. The 12 men were detained for 3 days. They were released after paying the 8,500 kina. Police reserves in Menyama have been forcing complainants and victims to pay huge sums of money as compensation in order to settle their complaints outside of court.
It's a manpower problem, but the way it has been addressed to deal with the manpower problem in Menyama has resulted in an illegal force.
Tewai Siasi is another district in Morebet province facing the same problem. The district has 3 police personnel. 1 is stationed at Salamawa and 2 are stationed at Wasu, while a number of young men are working as police reservists. However, these police reservists are not trained and are operating illegally. Police reservists must be trained so that they operate within the rule of law. Police are advising district CEOs to carry out proper police training for its police reservists. There are only 3 districts in the province, Bulolo, Finchafen and Nawai, that have trained their police reserves. Training of police reserves will also help police to deal with the high number of police brutality reports made against police. Matalubis, National, MTV News, Lay.
Auckland Institute, the author of The Great Timber Haste, has responded to Forest Minister Douglas Tomoriesa's comments of the report. Minister Tomoriesa said the report paints a bad picture of what PNG Forest Authority has done for the country. He added there's much misunderstanding from the Auckland Institute. However, the Auckland Institute's policy director, Friedrich Musso, told ABC Radio yesterday that minister's comments may be a case of willful blindness.
In response to Minister Tomoriesa's statement that the researchers did not meet with him or the PNG Forest Authority prior to the release of the Great Timber Heist, Auckland Institute defended the report, telling ABC Radio yesterday afternoon that the group did meet with representatives from the PNG Forest Authority before releasing the report. The U.S. independent policy think tank said at the time the officials acknowledged inconsistency in PNG's log prices, but said it was a sensitive topic.
And this person declared that, because I was asking why is it that in 2014 the PNG tropical timber is $200 less expensive than all of the exporters. As a person just could not explain the reason, but could say it's a too sensitive issue to comment on.
The Auckland Institute still stands firm on the claims of logging companies engaged in tax evasion and misreporting.
There might be a lack of concentration, but what we know also from the past and the different reports that have been published around the forest industry and the way the whole logging activity operates in the country, I'm afraid there's a case of willful blindness for the minister who has failed in the recent years to take into account what the Commission of Inquiry has said, what different reports, including our previous report in 2013, has said about all the flaws and the issues.
However, a media release from the Forest Minister and the PNG Forest Authority responded saying the current log tax is fixed at 28.5% since timber is not an openly traded commodity. Log exporters pay the log export tax on every shipment whether or not they make a profit. It also said the PNG Customs Service collects 200 million kina in the log export tax under the Customs Tariffs Act annually. According to the PNG Forest Authority, factors affecting PNG log prices are different log sizes, species available from different harvesting sites, and log quality. Yet many NGOs continue to advocate to protect PNG's rainforest and landowners. Marilyn Diaukatam, National MTV News.
And now looking at our finance news. The kina closed at $0.3265 US in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.3190 US, $0.4242 Australian dollars, $0.2865 euro, and 35.90 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold and cocoa closed higher, while coffee and copra closed the day lower. Crude oil closed lower, while palm oil and copper closed the day higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 67.18 points higher, the ASX closed at 20.99 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 24.43 points higher. Identifying crops that can be sustainable due to climate change and that story among others after the break. Welcome back to the news. Child Fund PNG Program Manager Adele Salvadora said climate change can affect crops' productivity and research must be carried out to identify crops that can sustain different weather and temperatures. She said it is important to identify indigenous crops that can last during long drought and rainy seasons.
As weather patterns and temperature continues to change, subsistence farmers are feeling the pinch of food sustainability. The long period of drought and heavy rain experienced in parts of the country recently has sounded a warning that similar weather patterns should be expected in future. Child Fund PNG, a non-government organization which carries out agricultural resilience and adaptive capacity training in 12 communities in Rigo District, Central Province, says they have observed a decline in food productivity, especially vegetables.
We are sure that they have been affected because one of our projects in terms of agriculture, we have noticed the decline in terms of crop production. And also in the long run, it affected even the root crops.
She said more research needs to be done in villages to identify indigenous crops that can last during long droughts and rainy seasons.
We are going to partner with NARI to do research on those types of crops that are resistant to flood as well as drought. But we are not going to introduce new crops.
Climate Change and Development Authority Acting Managing Director Joe Pocana said coastal and inland flooding and rising sea level will be frequently experienced, but PNG does not have enough money, technology and capacity to successfully mitigate against climate change.
According to a recent ADB report, the Pacific region is at greater risk that climate change can overturn its social and economic development, and estimate the cost to be around more than 2,000 billion to address it properly. PNG doesn't have those type of funds to fund our adaptation.
The Pacific Island nations are among the most vulnerable in the world to the impacts of climate change.
Quinten Alom, National MTV News.
So far, 40,000 cases of family and sexual violence have been dealt with by the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary's Family and Sexual Violence Unit. However, steps taken to prosecute the perpetrators have failed when they are set free by the courts for lack of police evidence. To create a conducive environment for women and girls, the RPNGC, in collaboration with its partners, has launched an evaluation report.
The evaluation report raises the issues of delays in cases being dealt with and fewer arrests and lack of consistent service delivery. Family and sexual violence, or FSV, was seen by communities in the past as a normal and an accepted part of PNG's culture. Prior to the introduction of RPNGC's FSV unit, many victims were not served at police station counters as it was considered a domestic or family issue. Now that FSVU is introduced, reports showed that policemen's mindsets are changing and help is given to victims.
As we have seen a slow but gradual change in the mindset of policemen and an increase in reporting to the various services available for victims of family sexual violence, including the police.
RPNGC is working with AUSAID and PNG Australia Law and Justice Program over the last 5 years in addressing family and sexual violence in the country. Currently, 11 offices were set up in the country to provide services such as counseling victims, but have received less attendance.
I don't think numbers have increased, but with the services available, I think women and children, and we hope men too will come. A lot more men also call the phone counseling service for services.
FSV Action Committee said over the last 6 years, language is still a barrier for victims and FSV officers to communicate. Transportation and lack of available information are also problems that prevent victims from receiving services. Meanwhile, the Australia's Deputy High Commissioner to PNG, Bront Moles, confirmed that Australia will still support PNG to address family and sexual violence.
And promoting gender equality is in fact a core element of much of Australia's international engagement generally.
Fasinata Yama, National MTV News.
In commemoration of International Women's Day, a worldwide pledge for gender parity acknowledged women's participation in all aspects of development. Among them, staff of the Pacific Islands Forum vowed to advocate for greater participation of women. Japan called for greater participation of women in its economic growth, and newly appointed FIFA President Gianni Infantino expresses the need to see more women in football.
As the world celebrated International Women's Day today, staff of the Pacific Island Forum put into motion this year's theme Pledge for Parity, collectively vowing to be role models for promoting gender equality in their communities. PIFS Secretary General Dame Meg Taylor stressed the importance of International Women's Day, saying it was a time to reflect on what we have achieved for women in the Pacific in terms of gender-based violence, promoting women in decision-making, providing accessible health care and education, and the economic empowerment of women. Meanwhile, in Japan, despite Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's promise to include more women in business, politics, and leadership positions, the country is still struggling to reach equality for both sexes.
While it's great news and great progress to see more women overall working in Japan, we still have a dearth of females in decision-making leadership positions, whether it be the government, whether it's directors on private company boards, in general politicians. That is still very, very lacking.
On a brighter note, FIFA President Gianni Infantino, in a women's football and leadership conference over at the FIFA headquarters in Zurich, says he wants to see more women in football. Former tennis star Billie Jean King addressed the conference in a speech reiterating the need for gender equality as a game changer for the culture of FIFA and the world.
What do I want for women in football? It's very simple. I just want gender equality. I want the same enthusiasm, the same investment, and the same caring for women's football as we already have in men's football. We're way behind, but it's possible.
As far as pledging for parity goes, a lot was said today, but the need for practicality still remains the hurdle for most countries.
We don't want to be known as that annoying little sister. We want to be heard and be valued in the very same way that men are heard and valued.
Milisi Goviro, MTV World News.
Back home, some women MTV spoke to in Lae regarding International Women's Day think it's just another ordinary day, while others say it is a day that can have significant meaning among womenfolk when there are sufficient funds available to conduct more women empowerment activities. A few said there is room for improvement in developing women to become successful, empowered, and embraced in societies.
These women in Lae are still working towards becoming equally important as men in society, business or politics. Their concern of the day remains as hardworking women continuing to fend for their families with the little money they earn. Following today's International Women's Day, some women say chasing success, power or achievements is not much of a priority, as every day is a struggle for them.
Work me pla concentrate lo work lo look out him all family pla me pla because now all something pricey go on top.
The United Nations International Women's Day 2016 theme is centered around promoting gender equality. In Lae, a women leader in the district, Carol Ahi, says empowering women in communities is a way forward for equal participation in business or leadership roles, but funding continues to be an area that needs improvement.
From the national level, I would ask the government to put more time and money into the National Council of Women, so they can look at the Provincial Council of Women, and that can fall down to the District Council of Women and also down to the women on the ward level.
Among the ordinary women, some say they plan to move a step further in their small businesses, but can only hope for more support from their husbands.
So me plan important to us. And settle sa wall, so me plan marry and me pa powerful. So me plan mamasta be more lemsta.
As PNG joins over 100 nations marking International Women's Day today, there are still cases of violence and gender inequality. Large populations of women in rural areas are rarely recognized with opportunities. Colin Barilai, National MTV News, Lae.
Trukai Sports is next. PNG go down to Australia in netball. Gulf Isapayas gets backing from Petroleum Resources Kutubu, and Barramundis off to Kenya.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The three-day netball PNG and WaterAid Invitational Tri-Nation Series ended yesterday on a high note with Victorian state champions, the Victoria Fury, defeating PNG Peppers 64-35. Mike Hoime reports.
PNG Peppers took off in the right foot into first quarter of the invitational meet with the combination of goal shooter Tiata Baldwin and captain Lua Rikis. But it was the more experienced Victorian Fury who made use of their fast ball passes and footwork movement, leading the first quarter 15-8. Peppers came in hard in the second quarter, but the Furies kept on pressing hard with their defense and with captain Ellie Bennett in the center feeding her players and youngster 17-year-old Brooke Allen using her height. Furies led 30-17, leading into halftime. Third quarter was a fast game which saw the Furies take control of the game, and with PNG Peppers using most of its players to keep the game going, with more experienced players like Lua Rikis, Kilala Owen and Winnie Mavara combined with younger players. Furies led 50-26 and finishing the last quarter with the final scores 64-35, Furies winning the invitational competition. Captain of the Victorian Fury, Ellie Bennett, said it was a tough game and a different style of playing netball in the Pacific, and was also a great experience for her team.
Victorian Fury and the Papua New Guinea girls, and it was a great experience to play against them.
All right, thank you, Ellie. What about the facility and playing here in Papua New Guinea for the first time, I'm sure, for all the girls? How's the experience been?
Yeah, it's been really rewarding. This stadium's pretty amazing. It's pretty hot out there, but in here you keep fairly cool. Yeah, I think all the girls here, on behalf of all of them, we're very grateful and very privileged to be here in Papua New Guinea. So thank you very much for having us.
Lua Rikis said it was a tough game for them with the new rule applying in the competition, but also a great experience for the PNG Peppers.
Here, and we know that Victoria, they're the ANL champions, so regardless of score, I think our girls did really well. Just coming together in a couple of, just two weeks, getting our combinations together. I think we pushed them to the edge in the first quarter, so that's something we're proud of. And we hope that we can continue this so they can come and we can play. And Papua New Guinea can see what style of netball is out there, and it's not just what they see in the Pacific. So thank you to Singapore and to Victoria Fury, and especially to WaterAid for making this all happen.
The three-day Tri-Nations Netball PNG competition concluded today with a success in celebrations of the International Women's Day. Mai Koime, National MTV Sports.
The Gulf Provincial Rugby League team, Gulf Isapea, has been one of the consistent team in the prestigious Intercity Cup. Gearing up for the 2016 season, the team receives a timely financial backing from company Petroleum Resources Kutubu. Shane Soroya with this report.
It's the second year of the sponsorship, and Petroleum Resources Kutubu has again shown its support to sponsor the Gulf Isapeas.
We're very humble with the presentation, your continued support. We cannot say much. What we have to do is do all our best to ensure that the maximum benefit reaches the children of Gulf Province. We are doing that, and we hope we will achieve our aim in that area. Thank you very much.
Gulf Governor Havila Kavo and board member of PRK representing Gulf, in his capacity as governor, thanked the company for the commitment.
From South Highlands, and we are thankful that they are able to put some money to support social activities within the two provinces, and you have supported the people of Gulf and Southern Highlands in the last 3, 4, 5 years. We want to say thank you very much. Chairman of PRK and the board directors, I want to say thank you very much for stepping in a place where provincial government itself cannot really take much of responsibility.
He said social activities like rugby league help to foster good relationships among young people, and was glad the board of PRK recognized this through the commitment.
To support and sponsor our provinces with sports, Southern Highlands and Gulf, and Isapea is one of them that we continue to support and sponsor.
The team has been preparing for this season since December last year. The club has been running trial matches in Gulf, which they help revive 4 rugby league competitions in the province, and will continue to revive rugby league competitions in the province, especially in Baimuru, Kikori and Ihu. Through the annual Governors' Cup competition in the province, the team has selected 14 players who will join existing players and selected players from Port Moresby to put together the full team for this season of the Intercity Cup. Shane Soroya, National MTV Sports.
The PNG Barramundis cricket team have started their training preparations for the one-day international match against Kenya next month. This world title match will be played at the Amini Cricket Grounds here in Port Moresby. Mai Koime reports.
The Barramundis started their training yesterday after having a break. It is no resting for the boys to start picking up their pace in training for their first one-day international match against Kenya. Speaking to Barramundis captain Jack Vare, he said the boys have played Kenya in previous matches and Kenya is not new to them.
We've played them a couple of times, both in the 2020 format and one day, and we've beat them all those matches. So look, we've got a strong side and we're confident that we will do well in this coming match against them.
The PNG Barramundis will be looking forward to play their first ever international match at home with support from fans, family and friends.
I'm very confident that we will play well with our condition, with our conditions and home ground advantage. And that's the other thing, home ground. We've never played an international match on our home turf, so this will be interesting as well. Yeah.
Hebel PNG Barramundis have a busy calendar for this year, and play in Kenya is the first international match for the year 2016. Mike Hoime, National MTV Sports.
Heather Watson secured her third Women's Tennis Association singles tour title yesterday after defeating Belgium's Kirsten Flipkens in the Monterrey Open. After losing the first set, Heather fought back in the second and third to beat the Belgian. Watson struggled in the first set, failing to even force a break point as the world number 73 chased her second WTA title. Watson, who remains without a coach, brought on her mother Michelle as on-court coach when 5-2 down in the first set. Watson came back in the second set determined to win, thrashing Flipkens 6-2 and forcing on another set. Watson carried on the momentum in the third set, sealing Flipkens' fate 6-3. After winning the Monterrey Open, Watson now moves up 31 places in the world rankings to 53. Chukai Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. Following the devastation of Cyclone Winston in Fiji, the Flying Fijians played for more than just the title of the Las Vegas Sevens during the weekend. They fronted an aggressive Australian side in the Cup finals and by half-time were without a try. But playing for pride, the Fijians stormed back in the final minutes of the match for an emotional 21-15 victory over the men in green and gold.
The Aussies raced to a 15-0 lead in the first 5 minutes of the match, and by half-time the Fijians had 3 unanswered tries to respond to.
Away to Clark, he runs hard at the gap, and that's 3 tries for the Aussies. They're going gangbusters here.
But by the first minute of the second half, 5'8" Tillinger's runaway conceded try had set the momentum for the Fijians to soar over a defenceless green and gold side.
A lovely run and a try for Kukioni Tillinger.
And with 3 minutes remaining, Quade Cooper was set to add 5 more points on the board for Australia, but a quick strip allowed for Savanatha Rawatha to run the length of the field and score the match-defining try to seal a 21-15 victory.
Rawatha gets away from Jaladev. It's the previous try left us restless. This one leaves us speechless. A fantastic try to put Fiji into the lead from Savanatha Rawatha. Well, this is what we call a 14-point try. Quade Cooper.
An unexpected comeback, a shocking defeat, but an emotional victory for the side who had failed to gain possession after Australia dominated play almost all throughout the match. This victory now places Fiji in 3rd spot on the World Series table at 86 points. 2 points behind New Zealand, with South Africa table leaders at 93 points. The next leg of the series is in Vancouver from the 12th to the 13th of March. Lorraine Kenya, National MTV Sports.
The MRDC Super 9s competition was held on Friday and continued on over the weekend with a total of 40 teams from around the nation's capital that took part. The 3-day tournament ended yesterday with both men's and women's teams contesting for the bowl, plate and cup prizes.
The MRDC Super 9s competition consisted of 40 teams, with 8 of whom are women's teams and 32 teams in the men's division.
We have had 32 teams. 14 of the clubs and proportionally 2 teams entered, and we had 4 invitational sides from the Central Province, from the east of Central Province and from the west of Central Province.
The annual tournament again saw successful hosting of 9s competition, which was staged in the newly built National Football Stadium. It is one of the main objectives of the PNG Rugby League to see players filtering through this tournament to eventually playing in the Intercity Cup competition.
We have our regular GCL Cup players playing in the competition, like Junior Bello from Global Warriors. He plays for Calpi Sapea. and also a couple of our players who play in the brothers, Tilis Kawage, Ben Wemin, and his brother, Tony Wemin, and a couple of players.
And we take this sponsor as our pre-season. And after this pre-season nights, we go on to our normal PRL season, which is next week.
The grand final of the women's plate competition was decided between the Dobo Warriors and Tarangao, while the grand final of the Women's Cup was between the Paga Panthers and Royals. For the men's division, the winners of the preliminary finals earned their spot in the final class of the Bowl, Plate and Cup finals. The tournament coordinator David Slovo said, with the increase in the number of participating teams in this year's MRDC Super Nines Challenge, it has raised the standard of the competition to a new height, which is a positive step for the association. Shane Saroya, National MTV Sports.
After round 2 of the Super Rugby season, Queensland Reds coach Richard Graham has been axed following back-to-back losses. Graham's sacking comes as no surprise as he's had a 28% winning rate since his appointment 2 years ago. The Reds lost 22-6 against the Waratahs in round 1 of Super Rugby and 15-6 against Western Force at an empty Suncorp Stadium on Saturday.
Since his appointment 3 seasons ago, little has appeared to change with the team's on-field performance. They were consistent in fumbling their way to disappointing losses, and this became obvious after their loss to Wooden Spooners Western Force. Fans and critics once again took to social media pages demanding for Graham's urgent dismissal, and shortly after the call was made by Queensland Rugby Union to have interim coaches Matt O'Connor and Nick Stiles fill in the blanks.
I care about the place deeply, and I want to see the place do well. And you spend a lot of time and effort and energy and sacrifice like everyone, but haven't been able to obviously get the results.
Although passionate as he says he is, Graham's poor 28% winning rate is enough to leave Queensland rugby fans muddled as to how and why he remained as coach for so long.
Ultimately, you get judged on the W's and the L's, and the organisation have had to make a decision. And I accept that. And,
the Reds will regroup under both co-coaches for their next match against the Melbourne Rebels on Saturday before their big gig against the Blues the following weekend in front of, hopefully, a bigger, better crowd at Suncorp Stadium. Lorraine Genia, National MTV Sports.
That ends Trukai Sports. I'll have the weather details after the break.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
Taking a look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. In the southern region, occasional showers and thunderstorms for Port Moresby, Kerema and Popondetta. Chances of showers for Daru and few occasional showers for Alatau. In the Momasa region, mostly fine for Lae, occasional showers and thunderstorms for Madang, few showers with occasional thunderstorms for Wewak, and showers with thunderstorms for Vanimore. In the New Guinea Islands, showers with thunderstorms for Lorengau, mostly fine for Kavieng, Kokopo and Rabaul, and chances of thundery showers for Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, showers with thunderstorm and morning fog for all centres. Now recapping our main stories for tonight. Telecom announced diverse plans for Media New Guinea Limited. PNG Power outlines plans to address chronic power outages. And International Women's Day celebrated here and abroad. And that's the news we have for you tonight, Tuesday the 8th of March 2016. On behalf of the news team, I'm Hope Imaka. Pleasant viewing. Good night.